This is the Voice of the Land podcast with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Nick Paulus.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome on in to another edition of the Voice of the Land podcast. I am one of your hosts, Kevin Arnold. Alongside me, as always, my brother, Nick Paulus. Paulus, how's it going over there?
Everything's going pretty well. The wife and I, we are starting a new training regimen. She's doing like the beach body coach sort of thing. I'm working with one of my buddies on Twitter, Matt V. Johnson. So MJ Fitness is his little business that he has. So we're going to get that all started. I did a 90-day program with him, so hoping to lose all of this flubby fatness. Be rock hard. So we'll see how that all goes, but definitely looking forward to it, putting my money where my mouth is and kind of going from there.
Absolutely. And it's we don't really have much else we can still do. I mean, I know things are opening up, but definitely always a good thing to try to, I'm trying to bulk up a little bit too, so we can be in the pathway together, just in opposite ways. I mean, you're trying to slim down. I'm trying to like bulk out. I'm trying to bulk up, man. I'm trying to like fill this
out, huh?
Trying to fill this screen and be more like the Hulk instead of the I guess baby Groot or teenage Groot on being that thin tree. So trying to find that balance there, and of course, with us, as always, behind the proverbial glass, our producer extraordinaire, Peter Telep. Telep, how's it going at the Telep household these days?
It's all right. The kids are almost done with school. They finished this week, so I think on Thursday is their last day, and Jacob's birthday is tomorrow. So
okay, happy birthday early birthday to Jacob.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. I'm afraid to find out what he's going to pick to eat for dinner.
Oh, boy.
He's been saying Popeyes. He's like, I want Popeyes. And it's like, no.
Popeyes does have that great sandwich.
I haven't had it, but they have good chicken. I no doubt about that. Yes. It's just, they're not in the best neighborhoods always. So so we'll see. We'll see.
It's fantastic. It's fantastic food. I actually had some the other day. That chicken sandwich will change your life, Peter. I'm telling you that right now. Definitely, like no matter what, that chicken sandwich is great, and the chicken is phenomenal there. So, yeah, no matter what, definitely go for it.
We might have to try that. So we'll see. I'll let you know next week what happens.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, DoorDash or Grubhub, something like that. Just get it delivered to you, so you don't have to.
Oh, there you go. That's a good idea.
Just get it ordered in, and then you don't even have to worry about anything. All you gotta do is just set up the little eating place, situate everybody's food out, and that's all you got.
I don't know if they would deliver it that far. The closest one is Euclid, I think.
Okay. They might deliver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a couple of them that do deliver.
Yeah, I would definitely look at I know that if these restaurants have delivery, it probably wouldn't go that far, but I would look at DoorDash or Grubhub, because those people are willing to do anything, and especially now, like just trying to make it. They think that if they drive further, they may get a bigger tip.
Yeah, that's true. Good point. I'll have to pass that to Debbie, and she's got the final say.
Yeah, of course. But I mean, you did mention that the kids are finishing up school, and I would be remiss if I didn't give a shout out to all of the seniors around the country, high school seniors, college seniors, those graduating, even if they are graduating from their master's programs or doctoral programs as well, not kind of doing more virtual graduations. I know, I'm kind of wearing the Wycliffe shirt today. Did a video last night to commemorate the class of 2020. I'm sure I've told you guys in the past, but I was originally going to become a teacher, and this graduating class was the class that I had as my student teaching group, and I've been working with them through different things here in Wycliffe for a long time. So just wanted to give them a shout out. I know that it's a unique time they've all been, kind of taking it in stride. I mentioned that last night on the video I kind of did for them because, what was kind of cool is the parents actually set up a Facebook page where you could sponsor the kids or like adopt a senior type thing. And the parents would post where they're going, what they're interested in, and then some of their favorite things, like some of their favorite snacks or whatever. And people that commented, you can sponsor them and then you can send them like care packages of some of their favorite things. So I did respond on there, but it was like, I saw that page and me, like I want to help them all. So like I wanted to be able to sponsor them all. I don't necessarily have the funds to be able to do that. So I figured a video doing what I know how to do is just talk and talk and talk right from the heart. I figured that would be the best way to do it. And of course, the additional gift that they get is starting on Monday, anybody that tries to follow me or friend request me on all the social media sites, they get a follow back or a friend request exception notification coming to them. So shout out to all of the seniors. I know LeBron and his crew is doing something special tonight. Special graduation events virtually as well. So unique times, but everybody kind of taking in stride, adjusting, and great accomplishments by all, whether you're a high school senior or graduating from college. Great accomplishments by all. Of course, this is season 3, episode 18 of the Voice of the Land podcast. We are partnered with Web Streaming Studio by LPV and NEO Sports Network. You can find us on all social media sites. Find us on Instagram and Twitter at VTL_pod. Find us on Facebook, Voice of the Land. And of course, on YouTube, you can find us at Voice of the Land podcast for all of our video content, whether full podcast episodes or fun clips from the podcast. And of course, thank you to Paulus and Peter for getting those all set up throughout the week. I'll just promote it when you guys get all that set up. You guys know a little bit more about that than I do. And then you guys can always find the podcast on all of your major podcast platforms, which of course always includes Google, Spotify, and Apple. And hey, we reminded you of last few weeks, Apple Podcast users, if you're listening on there, hit us with those 5 stars. Hit us with a review on there. What do you like to hear? What don't you like to hear? You can always hit us up on social media as well to let us know. Today, we're going to get into a few topics. There's really not a whole lot going on in the sports world. And we've said that for a while now, but there's kind of been at least that NFL element to keep us going, where they were able to have the draft and have some of the off-season programs where people can tune in. Right now, there's really only Korean baseball. If you're waking up very early in the morning to watch that live on ESPN, I am not, because I haven't slept much anyways. Maybe the downstairs neighbors are a little too loud at 2 a.m. in the morning. So by the time I actually get to sleep, I'm sleeping way past my alarm clock sometimes.
Was it the KBO? Is that what it's called?
Yes, yeah, Korean Baseball Organization, I believe it is. Yeah. So, and a lot of them have like phone company names. I think I've seen Samsung, like LG, Nokia is like some of the names that get posted up on the scoreboard that ESPN is using. But unless you're watching that, there's really not a whole lot going on. This week, however, there were a couple people that made news for comments out there, and we're going to start with more of a Browns connection for the Cleveland connection, and then we'll get into Blake Snell a little bit later. That's more of a national perspective with somewhat of a Cleveland connection. But James Harrison came out and said that he was given an envelope. Didn't say what was in the envelope, but was given an envelope by head coach Mike Tomlin of the Pittsburgh Steelers after knocking out Mohamed Massaquoi for the hit back in, I believe it was 2013, 2014?
2010. Yeah.
2010. Wow.
Yeah, he said the G'est thing Mike Tomlin's ever done. He handed me an envelope after that. And after that, meaning after that Mohamed Massaquoi massacre. So
and I believe he also said that if he only hit him 50%, it was a legal hit because it wasn't penalized in the game, but then he got the $750,000 fine because he was a repeat offender. And that was the point that they really started to get into trying to make the game safer. Some guys thinking that they're doing too much with it. but he was a repeat offender, and they reviewed that play during the week and saw that that was a dirty play. And Steelers fans are going to hate me for this, but as most of the plays that James Harrison did, he's a great defensive end, one of the better ones that you've seen. He was a dominant defensive end and could get to the quarter.
Linebacker end, yeah,
but he was dominant in what he could do. But he crossed the line and started to really go over that line a lot. And I consider him one of the dirtiest players of all time. We talk about the Myles Garrett helmet swing, and yeah, that's terrible and something you don't typically see. And that's going to stick with him for a while. For some reason, what James Harrison is mostly known for is not his reputation, which is weird. But he said that he was given an envelope, and then he was fined and thought if he would have hit him at even 80 to 100%, he said he hit him with 50%. If he would have hit him with 80 to 100%, he would have killed him. Not something you really want to hear either. And a guy being so open about that, and if he wanted to, he could just do that. We know how powerful he is, but definitely takes the comments way too far. Sure. Then his agent and Steelers president, Art Rooney, said that never happened. And James Harrison went on IG to say that if you think that there was people started to think BountyGate 2.0, and he's saying Mike Tomlin's a great guy. There was no bounty. It was just, he handed me an envelope. My question is, then what was in the envelope, and why did you decide to say that?
Right. His comment on Twitter was, "Wow, y'all really comparing what I did to BountyGate. Mike T has never paid for me for hurting someone or trying to hurt someone or put a bounty on anybody. If you knew the full story of what happened back then, you'd understand." Essentially, James Harrison's a dirty player. Let's just throw that out there right now. I don't care who, what Steelers fans, come out and say, "Oh no, that's not true. That's not true. He just played to the whistle." No, he's a dirty player. Mm-hmm. He knocked out Mohamed Massaquoi. I thought he killed Colt McCoy.
Yeah.
I thought he literally killed Colt McCoy on, I believe it was a Sunday or a Monday night football game. And I thought Colt McCoy was dead on the field. There's been countless other times. He was Vontaze Burfict before Vontaze Burfict. That's just what he was. Back then, though, you could do those plays. I call him dirty because he basically killed my players. But back in the day, they were excessive hits, obviously, but they were technically more legal than they are now. Of course, he got fined for those, and I think he even got suspended for the Massaquoi hit, afterwards. Mm. But yeah, there's a new school and old school feeling with all this. He was right before they started really penalizing for these sort of hits and really taking, the game and the mental aspect of it and taking it over, where it should be now. Back in 2010, we're talking 10 years. We're talking 10 years ago that this happened. We started really transitioning right around, I think it was 2012, 2013. Honestly, it was right around, whenever a lot of these players started, killing themselves and, having them wanting their brains tested for CTE. And that's whenever Roger Goodell and the rest of the NFL really took a hard look at themselves and started, taking care of the helmets and trying to focus on the players' health and safety and blah, blah, blah. That's what they're really trying to focus on later at that point in time. But before that, this Vontaze Burfict hit was one of those jacked up plays that you'd see on Sunday night countdown. I remember it vividly. TJ and Boomer, for Sunday night countdown would, always go, "Oh, and the fifth biggest hit of the week, was, tackling Jamal Lewis, from the Browns, and he got jacked up." And it was one of those segments that everyone tuned into because you loved it. But looking back on it now, you're like, that's cringeworthy. It was 10 years ago, though. So, there's been a lot of time since all of these plays have really gone into effect. But I mean, I'm never going to not think James Harrison's a dirty player because he always will be to me. That hit alone on Mohamed Massaquoi and Colt McCoy, I thought he should have been kicked out of the league. Now that was against my player. If he did that to a Raven, maybe I'd be thinking differently. And that's just a bias effect. I mean, that's how we feel, as fans of our own team. It's easy to say, oh, well, you'd probably say something different if it was against an Arizona Cardinals player, or if it happened to someone else. Yeah, you're probably right. Because it happened to my dude multiple times with the same guy. Yeah, I'm going to have that effect and feel that he's a dirty player. And you'll never be able to tell me he isn't one.
Yeah, when you are a fan of a team and you have your rivalries, you're going to react differently in the moment. But I think looking back 10 years, and what we try to do is we try to take those, while we try to present at times the Cleveland glasses on, we try to take those Cleveland glasses off for the most part. And we try to be real. And if you're saying he's not a dirty player as a Steelers fan, it's because he played for your team and he was one of those guys that, you either loved to have him or hated to play against them type players.
It's that bias effect. Yeah, you're absolutely right.
Right. But now if you try to take a step back and outside of the fandom level and just looking at the sports element, he was a dirty player. And just the way that he approached the game. And it's because he had the ability to hit you at 50% and still knock you out. The reason why the NFL, and maybe they haven't done it in the right way, hindsight always being 2020, there's things that they've put in place that they thought, oh, this is making the game safer. And it's really not. It's kind of putting gray areas into how officials have to rule the game, like pass interference, things like that. Trying to make the game safer, but really you're taking the game away from the players instead of just promoting safe techniques and making sure that coaches are continuing and starting from the youth level. If you're really connected as a professional sports organization and league, you are connected with the youth level so that things are being taught the right way from an early age and not just allowing kids to see these highlights and trying to mimic that when they don't know how that's happening and how to build their body up and how to tackle properly or defend as a cornerback properly, these type of different techniques. The biggest problem is athletes are, and it's kind of an advantage and a disadvantage at the same time. Athletes are bigger, stronger, faster nowadays than they were in the past. So a hit like James Harrison put on Mohamed Massaquoi that knocked him out may have given guys concussions when concussions weren't a thing, but may not have fully knocked them out, and they may have continued in the game because the guy hit him at close to 100%. So James Harrison's 50% is old school 80 to 100% of force that guys are hitting him with. So there is a reason for trying to make the game safer. And if you're just going to launch your body like a torpedo at somebody and use that helmet that way, Myles Garrett used it basically in a literal way that you see people just using their whole body when they launch themselves as a torpedo. It's the same concept. You're hitting a guy with your helmet, whether helmet to helmet or right up under the chin or right in the chest. You're causing a lot more damage that way nowadays because you want to get the biggest hit. You want to be on those highlight shows. You don't want to just perform and have success as a team. You're trying to get that one highlight, and it's becoming harder and harder to enjoy those kinds of hits because we know what the ramifications of that can be, especially nowadays with where athletes are and how they're able to build their bodies up.
Yeah, but we can't be comparing Myles Garrett's one stupid play to James Harrison's entire career.
Right. But what I'm saying is that hit that he swung the helmet with, people are really getting on him and having that be his reputation right now. When guys launch themselves as torpedoes, they're basically doing the same kind of force to a person's head.
I understand where you're coming from in that. I mean, James Harrison on a consistent basis towed the line. I mean, and I say towed the line because there were some hits that you're like, oh my god, I can't believe the Massaquoi hit, the Colt McCoy hit, all those sort of hits, and you're like, oh my god, I can't believe that he would do that sort of thing. And then, I mean, but Myles Garrett has those sort of hits too. Let's be frank about it. Myles Garrett has the helmet play, which I think was just a stupid heat of the moment sort of thing. I think he got baited into it by by Miles Rudolph or off. And so he got baited into doing that. But then, I mean, we've also seen him take out, the Jets, starting quarterback. We've seen him go play to the whistle and completely annihilate a quarterback and get a 15-yard penalty on consistent basis. I mean, people could look at Myles Garrett and call him dirty. I don't think he is as dirty as James Harrison, but I mean, there is a bit of dirt on Myles as well. And I mean, you step off the field. I don't want to put their personalities to the test because you look at someone like a James Harrison. I mean, the dude is a straight warrior off the field, on and off the field. I mean, you see him doing all these workout videos and stuff like that. I mean, he just pushed like 1,500 pounds the other day, at 42 years old. And then you look at someone like Myles Garrett, who off the field loves poetry and has a 60-inch vert. I mean, it's it's crazy to see things in different perspectives, in different lights, whenever it comes to our football players. The end all be all is that Myles Garrett is a Browns player, and we will support and love Myles Garrett pretty much through, no matter what. I mean, we've seen probably the most hellacious thing that he will have ever done in his entire life. And 90% of Browns fans are still on his side.
And I mean, we are admonishing him for that. We are not condoning that in any way. We're part of that 10% that, in the moment we thought, oh, like he's getting in a tussle with the Steelers. We're thinking like, all right, rivalry's coming back.
Sure.
This team is taking the steps they need to. They're not just going to lay down, because no one came to Mohamed Massaquoi's defense. The Browns were scared of the Steelers. They were timid of the Steelers or the Ravens. The Ravens or
Steelers and Ravens did those intimidation factors
because they knew they could.
That's why they kicked our ass for the last 20 years, is because they had the bigger and badder guys. And honestly, they had a team around them. I mean, you look at someone that steps off the bus, whenever you're heading into, uncharted lands, you want that person to be the biggest, baddest ass person off the bus. They had Ray Lewis, the Ravens had Ray Lewis walking off that bus a lot, for 17 years.
Yeah.
They had him. They had Jonathan Ogden, who was a mountain of a man. And then you look at the Steelers and you look at James Harrison, walking off that bus. You look at someone like a Troy Polamalu, who doesn't scare you initially, but his play on the field terrified opponents. And Ed Reed for the Ravens. I mean, we're looking at those people as as the biggest badasses on the field, and they terrorized the Browns for years. We finally have someone walking off that bus that is as good, if not better, than those players in Myles Garrett. And then you look on the offensive side, you have people like Jarvis Landry, and you have hopefully Jedrick Wills is that type of dude. I mean, that's why you draft him where you drafted him. You drafted him to be that badass walking off that bus as well. And you hope that he can play the part for the next 10 years as well.
Yeah, I just want people to realize that, well, first of all, I mean, you're so right with the Browns. I mean, until they are the intimidators, they're not gonna go anywhere, especially in the AFC North, because those teams know that coming into our building or when we come into theirs, if they can intimidate us from the start, the culture is still there. Until that culture where we take the game to others right from the start, which we thought we were seeing last year, but then they didn't even have a plan for the rest of the game. Yeah. When the offense would come out and score a touchdown, then look like they didn't know how to play, even basic offense at all.
I'm telling you, last year it was all about, bow down to us. We're the biggest, baddest people. And that's a mindset, which is a good thing to have, but you got to be able to produce.
Right. They had that mindset, and they were trying to present that by allowing the media hype and who they had on their roster, who they had on paper to intimidate others. But that's not the only thing. You have to actually produce as what you are projected to be on paper. That's why the guys you mentioned, Palomalu, Ed Reed, James Harrison, Ray Lewis, the guys like that, you were intimidated to see them on the roster and game planning them during the week. And then when they got out on the field and they started to go at you, just like you saw on film, that just added to it. And the Browns would bow down to them. And something we have needed them to change, that culture they needed to change on the field for so long. It's why you and I keep talking, Paulus, that we're not going to, while we may project them through a schedule game or something like that, 11-5, we know to kind of keep a side eye to, we're not going to just automatically think that they're going to be great during the off season once the season starts, because we haven't seen it. Until we see that success on the field, where the intimidation and the success of the off season translates to on field success and playoff appearances, approaching contending for a Super Bowl and getting to that point, we cannot fully believe in that. And the Browns need to get to that point. But I also want people to realize that if you think James Harrison wasn't a dirty player, and if you think that Myles Garrett isn't approaching that level for how he has played in a similar way, a helmet swing where you can see how damaging a play could be, just realize that the plays that you celebrate when guys are launching themselves like torpedoes or helmet-to-helmet hits, and you just love seeing guys light up and hearing that helmet-to-helmet crack, just realize that the same kind of damage you think that Myles Garrett could have caused Mason Rudolph can be caused by those plays as well, when guys are just reckless on the field. It's hard when guys are so fast and they're trying to stop their bodies. I get it. But there are times where guys are just lining it up and just trying to light somebody up rather than actually tackling a guy or taking care of their business as an actual football player. So I just want people to realize that difference between the two, or some of the similarities of when they think someone isn't a dirty player because they're playing football, and a dirty player because they had one of the worst things that you could do in a game. I'm not condoning it.
Sure.
It's just the damage could be the same, just doesn't look the same.
And you're right. You're right. But we also have to look at it. We got to be real about this as well. If James Harrison was on the Browns and he did that to the Steelers, we'd be praising him. I mean, for a good portion of time, we would have been like, oh my God. Could you imagine James Harrison knocking out, or let's put it this way. Could you imagine Myles Garrett decapitating Ben Roethlisberger? We would be through the roof, ecstatic, like
morbid, but I get where you're going.
Like we would be going crazy with it, and it's because he's on our team, because he is a Cleveland Brown, and we would be so excited to see that happen and go crazy with everything. We got to be real. We are the voice of the land. We're going to give you the dose of reality. If James Harrison was on our side and did that to Ben Roethlisberger or Joe Flacco, at that point in time, like, we would have been through the roof, ecstatic about all of that. And then coming back to it, him saying like, the GS thing ever was Mike Tomlin handed me, the paper. We haven't even talked about that yet. We haven't even.
What's in the envelope? Is it just a love letter? Like, oh my gosh, I love you so much. I love having you on my team, James, because you hit a guy just so hard.
Obviously, he got money. Like if he's being for real, he got money, paid for that. Now, I'm not saying that it was a bounty hit or anything like that, but the coach probably paid the fine, which is what he's probably saying. Yeah. Now, is that right or wrong? I think it's wrong, but I believe it's wrong because you're looking at. I think it's wrong because I think the player at that point in time was getting paid, $10 million. He can pay the fine himself. He did the damage. He can do it himself. That being said, I mean, we're looking at BountyGate, 2.0. That's what people are trying to put it as.
Yeah.
I don't think that it'll ever come to that point because the Steelers have that, that clout around them that everyone, oh, it's the 6-time Super Bowl winning, organization that's great and da 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 da. There's someone else that has 6 Super Bowls and that a lot of them are tainted, and that's the New England Patriots. That doesn't mean that the Steelers can't have tainted, I'm not talking tainted Super Bowls, but tainted victories, or tainted anything. I mean, we're talking about Mike. Who's going to believe Mike Tomlin? I mean, a lot of people do, but I mean, we're looking at Mike Tomlin, the same dude that tried to trip a ref, that tried to trip a Raven running down the sidelines. I mean, do we believe him whenever he says, oh, no, I didn't know where I was on the field? Are we going to believe him on that? Are we going to believe him on this envelope thing? Are we going to believe him that Mason Rudolph said that, he told Mason Rudolph, oh, no, I totally believe you. There's a lot of questions whenever it comes into, these sort of things. And, I don't have any trust for any of the Steelers. That's probably a biased thing, but I mean, I just hate them. I hate them, and I don't believe a word that they're saying. I think that organization is straight dirt, and that's just how I feel.
I think Mike Tomlin gets too much credit and blind belief of just always telling the truth. There's shady things going on, whether it's to a extreme level or just like a minor, like I can kind of look past it, but still, doing some things like shady things behind the scenes to still continue being a successful organization for as long as you are. The way that Mike Tomlin just gets lauded and applauded for everything, and he's had all these questionable moments and people don't question things he says. And maybe that is a little Browns biased, and he's a Steelers coach. Maybe that's coming from there.
He's a fantastic coach. He does questionable things.
There's questionable things, but he doesn't get questioned for him. I mean, it's okay. Again, we talked about this with Dorsey and people that we've kind of had blind faith in. When Dorsey was doing so well and getting players in here and talented guys, and then he would make like a questionable move, and we would question him on here, and people were saying, well, how? Not necessarily responding to us, but other people that would question him. Then people that couldn't hear that, or even the Ohio State fans, the extreme Ohio State fans that think that they can't do anything wrong or your team can't do anything wrong. That type of fan, it's like you can still question a person even if they've had a lot of success. You can criticize someone for individual moments when a lot more of their moments have led to success. You can still criticize them. It's not like they're immune to criticism. I think that's something we need to look at as sports fans, or even people in sports media, whether connected with an individual team or just teams that we just think have this aura or clout, as Paulus got us into the 2020 era with the new age lingo there. But these teams with this sort of aura about them that they can't do anything wrong, it's okay to question them sometimes. It really is.
It is.
We could go on and on and on about these kinds of things. And I mean, I know that there was even some trade rumors out there, but people more so on Reddit that thought that, either Myles Garrett was getting traded, or reports that Dorsey was going to trade for Russell Wilson for that number 1 pick.
I do believe. Okay, so the Myles Garrett, Reddit thing is 100% bogus. It is ridiculous.
I'm not even going to give that any more than the 10 seconds we gave it.
So stupid. You know, the fact that you would get like KJ Wright, a second, a fifth, a sixth, and like, okay, go kick rocks. Like that is the dumbest tweet Reddit thing, whatever, that I've ever heard. The Russell Wilson thing, I do believe is real. I do believe that the Seahawks are very cheap. I'm not going to lie. They're a cheap organization. They ended up winning a Super Bowl, but that was based on that defense and how young they were, and having Russell Wilson on a rookie contract. I mean, they were able to spend around that defense, get the right pieces, and go from there for it. But they didn't want to pay Russell. Like, they begrudgingly had to pay Russell Wilson $120 million or whatever it was. The dude's worth every penny because he doesn't miss any games. He's a baller. He deserves MVP votes, which I heard, Colin Cowherd posted it earlier this week. Russell Wilson has never had one MVP vote. Not one in the 10 years he's been in the league, and all of the crazy, amazing things that he's done. He's never had one MVP vote, and that's a shame because that dude is a baller. He's been playing amazingly since he came out of Wisconsin 10 years ago. And honestly, like if that was a real trade offer, I don't know how you would have passed that up. I like Baker. I think Baker is going to do great things here for us in Cleveland. And I'm actually very much looking forward to seeing what he's going to do this year. But whenever you have a sure thing on the line there, could you imagine Russell Wilson on this team last year with Odell Beckham? And you still would have had.
Not with bumbling Freddie Kitchens instead of Pete Carroll.
See, that's the thing, though. Like, I think that everything would have been changed at that point in time. I don't know who the coach would have been, but even if it was Freddie Kitchens, Russell Wilson would have gotten you to 9-7. Russell Wilson is that good, and he doesn't turn the ball over like what Baker did last year. He's never done that in the league. He is that great whenever it comes to holding onto the ball and not giving up a ton of turnovers. The dude's amazing.
Oh, yeah, he's definitely amazing. I always try to draft him on my fantasy teams because I know that not just to try to win the leagues, but I know that he is going to be a consistent quarterback throughout the year that you can rely on a certain amount of points in fantasy, but you can also Seattle Seahawks fans can rely on a certain record. And just like you said, we have the faith that he would have done within a bumbling system like we had last year, still got us to 9-7. That's the kind of player that Russell is and the kind of player that we hope Baker becomes. That's really where it's at. Now, the GMs in all the different leagues have conversations all the time. Whether Dorsey had that conversation or not, it's kind of like a fun, what if conversation to have. But we're 2 years past that. Now the focus really is in this city. Baker becoming the quarterback we need him to be. We saw in his rookie year that he could be. And these weapons, getting chemistry, working through that, and performing to the level that they are capable of, and not just thinking that they can walk off the bus with clout, continuing to earn that clout and aura about them as they have success on the field. We'll see moving forward once we get to closer to the NFL season what that's all going to look like. Another league that's trying to get things going is Major League Baseball, and a big hang-up right now is the agreed-upon pay cut that Players Association did agree upon, and it sounds like maybe MLB and the owners trying to take more money from them. And Blake Snell was on, whether it was a Twitch feed or some sort of live thing that he was doing,
it was
saying,
Twitch. Yeah,
saying, I got to get mine. I'm not going to play and put my life on the line and take this less money where I'm already getting 50% and they're going to take like 25% of that, like trying to do this random math with it, saying, I got to get mine. I have a very strong stance on this, and Paulus, I don't know what your reactions to this were, but I'm just gonna get this out. I'm just gonna leave it there. I'm not gonna
go ahead, brother.
Touch on it past the point.
It's all yours. Go ahead.
Not gonna touch on it past this point. First of all, I'm not a fan of Rob Manfred at all as the commissioner of baseball. So I have a feeling that there is an issue with what the players agreed upon and what they're being asked to do now. And Trevor Bauer came out and kind of indicated that, and saying that, trying to make sure that the players are not hurt by this and owners getting their money. That's all well and good if you're kind of in the Players Association defending all that. I have a big issue with the way Blake Snell and Bryce Harper deciding to agree with him as well. I have a huge, huge problem with how Blake Snell decided to present this. It's one thing to think and I'm sure he's in agreement with a lot of his fellow players that they want to get their money that they were agreed to by the MLB. But if you're just going to come out during a pandemic where there are millions upon millions of people who can't work right now and can't even get their unemployment. Unemployment lines in various states don't even work. You try to sign up online, the site is down all the time. These governments are not, they say that they're going to help with unemployment, and they are not. And there are a bunch of people that can't get any money to even supply their family. They can't even get 5% of what his 30% of his original paycheck would be. They can't even get that amount of money right now. And you're going to come out during this scenario and say, I got to get mine. Why don't you read the times and read the situation? This isn't about what he thinks. This is about how he decided to go about it. He's not defending his fellow players in anything that he says. He's only about himself. He's only trying to get that money and saying that he's going to get taxed. Well, I'm pretty sure he still plays in Tampa Bay, and in Florida there is no state tax. That's why LeBron went there, and they took those pay cuts from the big three, because they knew that they were still going to get a lot of money, most of the money that they were guaranteed down there. So you're not getting taxed as much as most people would. So you can shut up about that, Blake Snell. And you're saying, well, I don't want to, I'm going to put my life on the line by going out there and could possibly get the coronavirus. Well, yeah, that's true, but your life is going to be less on the line than all of the frontline workers that have been putting in the time and countless exhaustive hours to help people and are traveling around the country. There are people from Cleveland that have gone to New York or other parts of the country. There's other nurses and doctors that have gone around to some of the more harder hit areas to try to help, because they're willing to put their life on the line, have their protective equipment, but knowing that that's not going to just protect them, and go home to their families still trying to save other people. And you're going to talk about, well, I don't want to go make 10 of my $30 million and go pitch in the major leagues and have this cushy job and put my life on the line. No, shut the hell up, Blake Snell, and either talk about it from a players association perspective, or just shut up, get off of Twitch, and just take the money that you're going to get, because you're going to be able to supply your family forever and get them the medical help that they need and the testing that they need. Because guess what? You're probably going to get tested every single day when people can't even get tests right now for the coronavirus. So shut up, Blake Snell. Shut up, Bryce Harper, and go back and just think about your money in some corner of your dark house right now.
Did you get everything off your chest?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't view it as bad as you. I look at it from the standpoint that he can talk about his own money. And like, he was asked this question on Twitch. He didn't just come out on Twitch and say, you know what, guys, let me tell you about what I think. He was asked the question.
That doesn't matter, though. You're still presenting it as, I want to get my money, not players. We need to get the money or the level of money we were guaranteed, and MLB is withholding that. That's one thing to have that conversation that way, but that you're going to answer the question and think, oh yeah, I'm all bad and tough as Blake Snell, who had a good year and can be a good pitcher, but playing in Tampa Bay, guess what? I mean, I know that we have issues with attendance here in Cleveland. Tampa Bay really has issues down there. So they'd be used to not having any fans in the stands down there in Tampa Bay too. So you can just, Blake Snell should not be answering the question of, it's just about me. It's all about me. You're a professional athlete. No matter what question you're asking, what format you are, you should still be thinking about what's going on and having a better sense than that. So that's where I take issue with Blake Snell.
And I understand where you're coming from. I mean, there are, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of people that are devastated right now because they're out of jobs and the unemployment.
And I talk to them daily. I talk to them daily.
Right. And so you're closer to them than he is to anything else. I mean, the guy is a world-class pitcher. I mean, he signed I believe it was a 5-year, $50 million contract 1 or 2 seasons ago. He was supposed to be making, I believe it was like $7 million this year, something along the lines of that. I think a lot of his money was up front, and that's why it's not too bad whenever it comes to that. The taxing issue that you're talking about, yes, he does live in Florida, so he doesn't get taxed whenever he pitches there. However, if he pitches anywhere else, Just like if you were to, move out to, Wisconsin, you're going to be owing Wisconsin taxes if you're playing out there. So I mean, it's one of those things where I get where you're coming from, the tax issue, blah blah blah. But there is, I mean, he can talk about his own money. I mean, it's his own money. Do I want to hear his woe is me? I'm $1 million pitcher and I'm not getting everything that I think I deserve. No, I don't like the sound of it. I think it sounds, a little snooty, is probably the best way to put it. But I think that, he's talking about something that's affecting himself. Just like, I mean, I'm not going to begrudge him because of that. I think it does.
I am.
And you're more than welcome to.
Because no, it's not even about the fact that we know these athletes are getting more money than we're ever going to see, even when everybody's able to work. We know that, and yeah, it's not fun to listen to them talk about when they whine and cry about their money in those situations. This is totally different, a totally different scenario when you're going to come out and be selfish and all about yourself. And again, not even talking about the entire issue with how the Major League Baseball is trying to, give money more towards the owners. That's a big problem as well. You're going to talk about yourself in a big pandemic that nobody's ever seen before, and there is a lot more suffering than there typically is in this country when it's a problem for you talking about your own money and making millions of dollars. And woe is me, I'm down to 10 million instead of 30 million. Guess what? I could live the rest of my life on probably $1 million, let alone 10. So this is not the time to be having that conversation. So if you support him and the Jared Carabas from Barstool Sports, of course, Barstool Sports is going to support something like that. This is terrible. He should be demeaned for this. This is terrible comments that should not be out there. It's not funny, and it's not funny at all. I should not be thinking that he's just the only person that's affected by this.
I understand, but he's not going out saying like, I want to, kill someone or he's not doing anything to affect your life though, Kevin. He is coming out and he's saying some crazy stuff. I'll give you that. The woe is me. I'm not getting, a third of my $50 million contract. I understand is a little, it's stupid. It's something that he probably shouldn't say out loud, but he can say to himself. But you're going out there like he killed somebody, and that's not the case. I mean, I understand a lot.
I don't think that my reaction is anything like that. I think that it's right to be able to tell someone that they're wrong.
Kevin, a lot of people are hurting right now. I understand that. Yeah. I think he understands that to a point.
No, he does not. He clearly does not.
I think if you asked him, or do you believe a lot of people are hurting right now? He'd say, absolutely. A lot of things are wrong with the economy and a lot of things are going bad and a lot of people need help. But he is looking at himself because, from what we can all assume, he's all about himself. And that's something that probably got him to where he is right now. He probably focuses just about himself, and that's probably why he's so damn good at pitching, is because he's focused in on only himself and doing the things that gets him to where he wants to go. So I think this is something that is it a bad look? Absolutely. It's a bad look. He probably shouldn't have said it out loud, but it's the way he feels, and it's not like he's going out and taking money from his next door neighbor. It's not like he's going around and robbing people from their money or anything like that. He thinks he's viewing himself as he signed a contract, he deserves all of his money, and that's the way that he views it. I mean, if you signed a contract for you work at Progressive, if you signed a contract for $100,000 this year and they said, hey, you know what, sorry about this, the pandemic, blah, 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 everything's going on with this. We're only going to be able to give you your $50,000. That other 50, sorry, you're not going to get it. Are you going to be upset? I think you would be.
I'm going to be upset, but I'm not going to go out of my way to just have that be out there.
He's saying,
no, he is not.
All of my money.
It's a different level. It's a whole different level.
and I deserve my money. That's what he's trying to say. And I think if anyone else was in his shoes, they'd probably be saying the same thing. It's a bad look to say it out loud, but privately in your own home,
fine, privately you can say that.
I understand, but it's an emotional reaction. Someone asked him randomly on Twitch, and it was the first thing that he said. It's not the right thing to do, but he said it. And if anyone else was guaranteed a contract of that sort of proportion and told you, hey, by the way, we're not going to give you, 3.5 million. Here's your other 3.5 million. Yeah, that's great to us. But maybe, you're guaranteed a certain amount of money. You deserve that certain amount of money is what he believes in. If anyone else was in his situation, I think that they would say the same exact thing, but just not in that setting.
No, I think it's terrible that he even decided to answer that question in this case.
It's not.
It is terrible. It is. That's not what I'm saying in terms of being terrible. I don't know why you're putting that kind of connotation to this. It's the fact that it's just like with the LeBron situation when he left here. It's not what he did, it's how he did it. You're going to decide to answer that question out loud, thinking that, hey, I'm a professional athlete. I am well known. This is going to get out there. So you wanted it to get out there. He wanted to say that so it got out there so that he could be the center of attention. And that is a terrible look as a professional athlete and not somebody I would ever want on my team. As talented as he is, that's not the kind of player or the characteristic of a player that I would want on my team, ever.
I think you would once again, this is the James Harrison aspect. If James Harrison was on your team, that's the type of dude. Now, I'm not saying Blake Snell's the type of dude that you want on your team, but if Blake Snell got traded to the Indians for whatever reason, he went out and pitched a no-hitter, you're not going to turn on that game in the 8th, 9th inning and say, like, come on, man, come on, Snell. If he's on your team, you're going to root for him. If he's not on your team, you're going to bash him. That's
not for that kind of characteristic. No,
as people, as fans, that's how it works.
I would not have celebrated J.R. Smith as much if he would have been J.R. Smith of the New York Knicks on this team, because I did not like the characteristics of him. He was able to change. If you're able to change, and I'm always willing to give people second chances. That's how we are as humans. But to do that at this time is terrible, and does not, just shows a complete lack of understanding or care of what's really going on in the world. And anybody that just thinks wants to just present themselves that way and get notoriety for saying I want to get mine, you can think it all you want in the quiet, secluded corner of your house in quarantine. That's fine. But if you have the notoriety that Blake Snell does and you're still going to come out to do that, that is a terrible look, and people should not be celebrating him for coming out and saying it that way and doing it the way that he did it.
Agree to disagree is probably the best way to put it.
Right. I think the problem here is people think that, it's more of an opinion. This is reality. Reality check is, you want your money, athletes? You know what? Have your little Zoom conversations between each other, and or talk to yourself in the mirror. Don't go out there and saying that, because too many people are affected right now. And we thank these people all the time and on this podcast. And to have someone be so just immune to even realizing that, or just so dumb to the situation, is a terrible, terrible look. And I'm going to call him out. You said we don't call people out on this podcast. I'm calling out Blake Snell on this podcast this week. Just how it's going to be. Now, coming up this weekend to finish out the podcast, we do have the last episodes of The Last Dance. Have you guys been watching? Peter, have you had a chance to watch The Last Dance?
I have not. And it's just, I probably should. I've just, since I'm still fortunate enough to be working at this point, my days they seem like they've been extra busy. And so when I'm, after working that, I'm watching other stuff with the kids, just kind of hanging out with the family. So I don't think it's not something they're that interested in, so I'll probably catch it at some point, but just a little bit out of touch with that one.
Paul, have you been watching these episodes?
Yeah, I have been. I missed the last two. Last week's what was it? Number 7 and number 8. So I missed those ones. I'm planning on watching those before tomorrow's. That way it just recaps everything there for us. Yeah, I have been watching. I enjoy it. I mean, it's cool to see something that I've never seen before. Like the whole Michael Jordan era. For the most part, I don't really remember a lot of these championships that he had. I remember like the last one that he had, against Utah. That I'm assuming that they're either going to talk about, in these, next couple of episodes there for us. But I don't really remember anything before that. I really wasn't that much of a basketball fan before that. I viewed Michael Jordan's career a lot more as like a Washington Wizard. I'm not going to lie. And like, I knew he was great and phenomenal before that, for sure, obviously. But whenever I was comparing LeBron to Jordan, and, as a lot of people are doing right now, I always viewed, LeBron is the greater player, but Jordan was the greater scorer. After watching the series, it's a lot. I mean, to me, Jordan could do everything. I mean, Jordan did everything from all of the things that I've been watching, from this. Jordan could do literally anything he wanted to do out on the court. And that's something that, LeBron has that capability as well, but I think Jordan just pursued it a little bit more. So, I mean, if we were to talk number 1, number 2, who's the greater one, or anything like that, it's tough. I'd probably go Jordan. But I mean, LeBron still has time. LeBron's still banging it out, 28 points a night, 9, 10 assists. I mean, he's doing stuff that we've never seen a 35-year-old do out on the basketball floor. So, I mean, it's not to say that LeBron, will never be able to get there or anything like that. But, this Last Dance is also viewed, a lot of things crazy to me as well. I mean, obviously, Scottie Pippen not getting, a huge contract or anything like that while playing with, the Bulls. But I view it more as, without Phil Jackson, I don't think that Bulls team would have won, 4 championships. I think that they would have probably been stuck at 2 or 3, and it just would have been it. I think Jordan was fantastic. Those teams were fantastic. Pippen, Rodman, all of those guys, Steve Kerr, I mean, Tony Kukoc, I mean, a lot of those guys were great, but you needed that Zen master. Phil was everything for Jordan, because without Phil, I think he gets a couple of championships, but I don't think he gets 6. There's no way with all of those, with all of those egos on that team, there's no way that they get more than 3.
Phil is considered the Zen master, and he gets even more credit now for the championships that he won with the Lakers as well. The 5 championships, right, coaching the Lakers. So you see what kind of an impact he has, and for a guy that, the whole basis of the story. I know people are having trouble kind of following it, or they were having trouble following it initially because they would go from the Last Dance, the last championship, going through that entire year where Jordan and the Bulls allowed this camera crew to be there, and that's where they're getting this footage from. They're also jumping back to when Jordan was drafted and going through like basically his whole career in that whole era of Chicago Bulls basketball. So, it's a little bit easier to follow now. I love the way that they're kind of doing it, kind of giving perspective of both angles there. But to know that Phil was told it was going to be his last year before, basically at the beginning of the season, and Scottie going through the possible trade talk and wanting to be traded, and still coming back to play because he wanted to win a championship. He wanted to play with Jordan. Those types of things, you just see the type of character and the drive that these guys had, and the way that Phil was still able to kind of calm things down and be that mediator, but also that Zen master to get the team going again as well. They started that season sluggish, coming off, a couple of years before, going 72-10, being this dominant team. didn't look very dominant, didn't look like a championship type team at the beginning. But that's why it's a marathon, not a sprint in the NBA, and it has been for a very long time. And to have that guy to lead them in Phil Jackson is a big piece. And if you got Jordan, that's all well and good. I actually take issue with the whole, this is another opportunity to have the debate between Jordan, Kobe, LeBron. Guess what? I mean, it's fun to debate those things from time to time, but if people are kind of taking it and they're being very like distinct about it, like the LeBron fans are like very, very adamant the LeBron's better still, and by watching Jordan, and the Jordan fans are very adamant, and it's like very almost angrily adamant that guy is better. Guess what? You're gonna have great players in every area. You're gonna have that once in a generation player, and we're gonna see those moving forward later on. Each new generation of youth are going to have that new player to look up to. You can respect the greatness of Jordan of the past and enjoy that, as well as enjoy the greatness that is LeBron, getting to watch him these days and missing being able to watch that right now with sports being left out. Like, it's okay to see that, there's greatness in both players. Like, they're going to be at the top. They're going to be towards the top of a lot of people's Mount Rushmores. And we're going to, once the Last Dance is over this weekend, we will kind of give a big review next week, and we'll look into that. But and probably give our Mount Rushmores of players. If I were to, I think I've said it before, if I were to pick a greatest, even after watching Jordan through these first 8 episodes, a greatest basketball player, I'm still going LeBron. Because I just seeing what Jordan could do in terms of getting his other teammates involved and things like that, I still think that LeBron has a higher IQ of that. I just think that the killer mindset that Jordan had out there on the court, and at that time being a different era of basketball, he is more accomplished or more successful. There's a lot more that great players have to traverse in this new era of basketball, and LeBron may be partially at fault for that with the super team element and him having to go up against the Warriors for so long. But it's a little bit of a different animal of what obstacles are in great players' ways from that era to this era. So I still think LeBron's a better basketball player, but I love Jordan too. I mean, I was taught the game of basketball. I love the history of the game of basketball. You're not gonna. If I say LeBron's better, it has nothing to do with not liking Jordan. It's just what I love to watch, and it's fun debates. I just think just appreciate greatness when greatness is there, because it's not there forever. Father Time is undefeated. It's not around for us sports fans forever. Appreciate the greatness when it's in front of you, and appreciate the opportunities you get, like an inside look at past greatness, to appreciate the history of what you love in sports as well. That's all I'm asking.
Right. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. I mean, there's a lot of things that, we're going to be talking about, especially next week. So a little tease for next week, we are going to be doing that Rushmore there for us. So, to everyone that's listening, out there right now, contact us, let us know what your Mount Rushmore is for the top NBA players of all time for you. We would love to hear back from you guys, and we're going to have a pretty lengthy debate on, I think, who's going to be on that Mount Rushmore for us.
Yeah, and we'll go through some people's Rushmores that they send us throughout the week as well, and we'll add that into next week's episode. But that is going to wrap it up for Season 3, Episode 18 of the Voice of the Land podcast. Of course, congratulations once again to all the seniors graduating high school, college, anybody going through that, or even if you're graduating 4th grader from one level of school to the next, 8th graders going from 8th grade to the high school as well. Want to make sure we mention all of that. And thank you to all the frontline workers still, and all the healthcare workers out there. For Nick Paulus and Peter Tellep, I'm Kevin Arnold, reminding all of you sports fans out there, don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. Blake Snell, go to bed and shut up. And everyone that listens to the podcast, we love you all at 3,000. We will see you all next week.